Hello, this is Tom Kyler from xscenery.com, working in conjunction with x-aviation.com, and this is just a short video to demonstrate some of the new features found in our new Sequoia Falco simulation. The reason we want to do a demonstration of this aircraft is because it contains more 3D interactive technology than the X-plane aircraft that's come before it, including our own MU-2. I'm sure many of us here are used to interacting with an X-plane aircraft in 3D, but probably not to this extent. The Falco is different, and the best way is to just show you some of the features. So you bear with me, I'm using a mouse and keyboard to navigate, so I'll try to stay smooth. What you're seeing here is what a lot of people call a cold and dark situation. We're starting with the engines off. So we've set up the airplane depending on your time of day and whether it's day or night. The certain switches will all be set to certain places based on your startup situation. So here's a couple of the manipulators, a little bit different. You can manipulate the canopy back and forth. You can, let me get the canopy. I've got little spots here on the side that you can shut it. And you can close it. And when you latch it, you can't open it again until you unlatch it. Sorry about that. We're going to unlatch it there. And then now you can open the canopy again. Our goal here with the Falco was that anything you could reach out, move, and manipulate in a real 3D or in a real aircraft, you could do it in this simulated aircraft. So we went as far as doing the eyeball vents, AC vents here. All the obvious items, trim wheel, this is a park and brake, things like that. These can be just grabbed relatively easy. We did not put manipulators on the yoke, things that you might use regular input for, but they are hooked up to a joystick, which I'm moving now. You can maybe see the pedals there and do their thing also. So as I input the joystick hardware, you can see some changes made there. So let's just quickly go over the panel to see some of the items. Some are relatively obvious. Here's a rather unique one. We have push buttons where you push them and they'll actually pop out a little bit. And when you let go of them, they'll pop out, and they work just like a real push button where when you push it in, the system's on, and when you push it out, the system turns off. So that's something that haven't seen much of another aircraft. Our goal there was to come up with a push button that we could use on future aircraft like heavy airliners that use many of these buttons. So back up here. All these other instruments work like you'd expect to as a manipulator. If you can grab it, then you can manipulate it. All the buttons work on the avionics stacks, including the Garmin 430 here. And if you can familiar with the King KX 165, you can operate these things just as well. All the fuses operate. Well, they pull out rather. Most of them, a lot of them control their circuits, not 100%, but we're going to be fixing that as fast as we can, I'm sure, as we work on some new systems simulations, all the switches. So let's just fire up, I'll tell you what, let's look at a night, cold and dark, start up at night. And we'll show you how we initialize your state. It's already there, but I'm going to do it again. So, all right, we've got this thing started up at night. It's so dark I can barely see, so maybe I should get some light back in here, or I guess I can try to deal with it. Let me see here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this will probably be good enough. All right, we're going to turn on the master switch, and that's going to connect the battery to the bus. Our red light here shows us that we have bus voltage. Green light shows that the gear's down. Now, in this case, we've given you just enough light to be able to turn the rest of them on and go through your procedures as you normally would in a real aircraft. I'm going to turn the lights back on here, whichever way the clock goes. All right, so we'll turn these back down. Let's see. So let's go ahead and get the plane started to show the avionics stack real quick. So I'm going to run out of time. I've got lots left to do. And let's see. We're going to have the mixture on. We'll turn that on. Now the key, just like a switch on the ADF, is a momentary switch, or it's similar to spring-loaded. You can start it as normal, and then when you try to start the engine and let it go, then the key will spring back. Oops, I took the brake off. Here's the parking brakes. Put the parking brake back on. Maybe not apply so much power. Let's take a quick look at the avionics stack before we're done. And we'll see a couple of unique things about the simulation that we have here. In a cold and dark state, we have everything. I've got to turn on the avionics switch. We have everything turned off, so you have to turn everything on yourself using the power knobs. And once those are on, you can play with a couple of these buttons. Like I said, everyone's animated. The Garmin 430 is the default unit. You don't have to use click spots. It all works with manipulators. Every button works, and while it's not the Reality XP style one, it's still much easier to work in 3D now that we have manipulators put onto them. It's much more tolerable. If we pull this out, we can see the radio that we're on if we happen to be tuned to that frequency. Turn on the ADF, show you that. Show you how you can change frequencies, swap the frequencies. The Garmin 430 transponder works just like the real one for the most part. There's a few functions left that we haven't dealt with. So altitude mode. We're going to hit the ident button. See the ident light up over here. Switch to VFR mode, back out. Several functions here that work. Also might note that this particular page has got the outside air temperature on it. It uses a temperature probe, and if you were to pull the fuse on that, then you lose your sensor there and can't get that anymore. We've also animated a whole bunch of needles, to take control of them so that they animate much more smoothly. Take, for instance, this fuel flow gauge here. If we were to pull the fuse on the fuel flow rather, you'll notice the needles animate up and down slowly. This may seem relatively trivial, but there's lots of data refs that Austin uses that are what I'll call instantaneous numbers. They flip rapidly from one to another, and so we've taken control of almost every needle to make it animate smoother. Now we got the engine running, but there's no load here. This is the generator, so when we flip the alternator on, you'll see our needle alternate all the way up. We got a good jolt there. Hopefully we didn't trip our alternator fuse down there. And you'll see that circuit works relatively well too. If we'd actuate the flaps and you keep an eye on the needle over here, you'll see that the load will increase on it and the needle animates smoothly up and down. We've also applied that same idea to the yokes, so that when you turn on the autopilot and turn it off, the yoke will animate. Autopilot will try to control it. I'll move the trim here and you can see autopilot work with it. But then when you turn things off, they'll animate back and forth, and this keeps everything smooth. So the final thing I want to address for people is if you wonder whether or not manipulators can be used from a distance instead of close up, if you can basically see it on screen and get the mouse cursor on it, you can manipulate it. I can actually back up quite here to the plane, and that red dot, well, that's probably one of the tougher things to get. The cursor can show you here which knob that you're on. You get a big knob for the outer knob and a small cursor for the inner knob. So I can manipulate this relatively quickly from this far out. Doesn't mean I can see what's on screen, but as far as manipulating it, then that's very, very, very easy to do. So you're actually going to have more trouble trying to see what's on the screen than you are trying to actually manipulate and actuate what's on the screen itself. So anyways, that's a quick overview of our manipulators, and I want you to get a close-hand view of what the Falco looks like up close as far as the quality that we put into it, and I'm sure we'll be adding a little bit more as time goes on. And we hope that you enjoy it as we take this technology and move on to bigger and better things. So stay tuned to xscenery.com and certainly x-aviation.com, where the best X-plane work gets done. We'll talk to you soon.